We've all been there. You stand up too quickly, you see black spots, and you feel dizzy. But when is feeling dizzy a sign of something more serious, and how can you treat it? I got answers from local audiologist Dr. Gnewikow.
Basically, when you describe dizziness, it's kind of difficult to describe it because different people have different meanings to the word dizzy. Some people say they're dizzy and they simply mean they're anxious. Some people say they're dizzy and they mean they're lightheaded. They get up quick and it takes just a moment to get their equilibrium. Some people talk about dizziness and say, well, I can't walk in a straight line. But the most common description of dizziness is that of motion, of vertigo. The inner ear is the mechanism that allows us to keep our balance. The inner ear is like the gyroscope on an airplane. It tells us when we're level or when we're crooked, and it sends information to the brain. It also sends information to the eyes, so that when you move a certain way, your eyes move to compensate. So if your inner ear thinks you're falling, your eyes compensate by an eye motion. All kinds of things can cause this to go awry, just like on an airplane. If the electrical signals from the gyroscope didn't get to the automatic pilot on the airplane might crash because it didn't make corrective actions. And so when erroneous information is being sent from the inner ear to the brainstem, then sometimes the brain thinks you're doing something that you're not. And as a result, the eyes start to try to compensate, they start moving, and the patient has a perception of rotation, that the room is spinning. And so the most common description of dizziness is generally vertigo.
And I would imagine this is an important thing to look into because you might make a mistake and accidentally hurt yourself if you get off center and you fall down.
Well, falls are important, and you want it, particularly for older patients, because sometimes it changes the rest of their life if they fall and they break their hip or whatever. So you want to try to determine what's causing it, and if you can fix it, you do it, although in many cases it's more counseling than anything else. But it is important, if you have dizziness, to try to have it evaluated and make sure you don't have something that's a major issue. Sometimes dizziness is the inner ear, but sometimes dizziness can be an indication of a more serious medical problem, so it should be evaluated medically.
Now let's talk about what's going on now here. You know, this is a high-tech device. Tell me a little bit about this.
Basically, the way we evaluate dizziness is we monitor eye movement, because again, if your gyroscope is off and your eyes are trying to make a correction, there are certain patterns that the eyes will follow. A jerky eye movement called nystagmus, where the eye tries to compensate and then suddenly it jerks back, is generally what causes vertigo. So what we're doing here is we have goggles on the patient where we have little cameras, infrared cameras, that are measuring the movement of their eyes when we put them through several different routines. We try to determine whether the dizziness is coming from the inner ear or whether the dizziness is coming from the central nervous system. Again, dizziness in most cases is not anything we need to be terribly concerned about once we rule out the more significant medical problems. So if a person is having dizziness, the first thing you need to do is you need to see your physician, you see your ENT or your neurologist, and make sure that there's not something major going on. A part of that diagnostic evaluation would be something like we're doing here. This is called VNG, and quite often when they've done everything they know to do and they want to determine, is the person really dizzy or is this something that they're imagining, they'll send them in and we can actually measure objectively whether there's dizziness by looking at the eye movements.
That's fascinating. Now, what if you decide and understand that it is coming from the ear? Is there a solution?
Well, in most cases, vertigo from the inner ear is self-limiting. You have a very bad spell. Many people that are listening to this have had an episode in their life where they may have become very nauseous and vertiginous, went to the emergency room, thought they were having a stroke or whatever, when actually it was an inflammation of the inner ear. In most cases, that will resolve itself in a matter of days or weeks. And in most instances, there is not any major residual from that. Sometimes there are dizzy issues that just go on and on and on and on, and they don't resolve themselves because the brain is not able to compensate. One common condition is something called Meniere's disease, where the fluids that operate the gyroscope, the hydraulic fluids, if you will, are under an unusual amount of pressure, and as a result of that, you have recurrent dizziness. It will get better and come back. If you have something that keeps coming back over and over and over, then that is a more serious issue because sometimes that can even affect your hearing. So don't take dizziness lightly. If you have it, It could be an indication of something serious, but in the vast majority of cases, it's generally, if it's vertigo, it's generally in the inner ear and it does self-limit, but that does not mean it should not be evaluated thoroughly by medical personnel.
Visit Audiology Hearing Aid Associates at 2 area locations, one on Langhorne Road in Lynchburg, 434-528-4245. Also on Main Street in Danville, their phone number 434-799-6288. Also online at digitalhearingforyou.com.